Kicking off the distribution track here, crossing boundaries and overcoming borders and all the rest, we have a presentation with Philip Saunders, who is joining us from South Africa. We are streaming him in. He will be talking about the future of airline retailing, what is really happening and why it is happening. And then we're going to move into the rest of the session. Will be followed by three people who Sebastian will be introducing later on. So with that in mind, I will turn over to Philip. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody at the HEDNA conference. My name is Philip Saunders. I'm delighted to be with you. I should have been with you in person, but we're using technology, which is actually what airlines want to do in the field of pricing ever more, to hopefully join you from South Africa. I hope you can hear me. I hope I can get a text to tell me that that's the case, but it's great to be with you. So I think that everybody knows that right now airline pricing is changing very significantly. And at the same time, sometimes the airline industry is being seen as being ahead of the field in undertaking these developments. So we felt it would be a good idea to perhaps share with you what's happening at the moment in the airline world. But I also wanted to share with you some of the real reasons why some of this is happening. And it has a great deal to do with, I suppose, the equivalent of an oil supertanker in the airline world, which is the whole question of distribution. In terms of airline distribution, that has always been very heavily dependent on the GDSs. And this isn't a bad thing at all. The GDS technology, legacy technology, 50 years, has served the airline industry well. And however much some critics talk about legacy carriers moving towards an online environment, a direct environment, there's no question that all the GDSs have consistently delivered higher yields and delivered, for example, the corporate customers for the airlines across their networks. So why the need to change? Well, I think there are several reasons. The first reason is that the GDS technology is not necessarily a modern technology. And it's based on old standards, and basically it's about handing out offers from airlines to the consumer. And it's constrained by a number of booking classes, and generally isn't particularly good at selling ancillary services in terms of explaining how one airline is differentiated to another. And we all know that low-cost carriers have played a key role in revolutionizing the industry in recent years. And generally on the basis that they, certainly at the beginning and through most of their business, are not dependent upon GDS distribution, but more on XML links through APIs, have basically been able to offer a broader range of basically products for customers to choose from. I think one particularly good example at the moment might be Ryanair, where there are effectively 3 different types of fares, and those different fares bring different attributes with them. So I'm sure that many of you in the audience have done what I've done, which is buy one of those tiny pieces of cabin luggage so that you can actually effectively just slide it under the seat in front of you and fly from London to, let's say, Madrid for £99. Equally, if you want more flexibility, cabin baggage and whole baggage, you pay more. And then equally, in the terms of fare families, if you want even more, you pay the top price. This is now something that traditional airlines are also doing more and more. So a great example would be IAG in terms of the fare families that they've introduced. But generally, low-cost carriers, through their direct distribution sites, are able to show far more of their actual product attributes than airlines. And sure, the GDSs have been getting better at this. For example, Travelport, who I worked for until the end of last year, have something called rich content and branding, which does provide travel agents with pictorial and equally information about different products that they're selling on behalf of the airlines. But it's still something that's not widely used by travel agencies necessarily. And I think that really what low-cost carriers have done has shown the traditional airlines where that possibility is that they haven't necessarily undertaken in the past. And that links to the next element of dynamic development in the industry, which is happening as we speak. And it's related to an initiative which is generally called NDC, something that was initiated by IATA some years ago. And as most things in the airline industry, takes more than a few years to actually develop. And NDC stands for New Distribution Capability. And what it actually is very simple. It's about creating one XML language which enables airlines to sell through an API whether that's through their own direct APIs to either travel agents, corporate travel agents, or whether it's through a third-party aggregator, or potentially even through the GDSs. And why this change? Well, it's really about three things. First of all, airlines want to be far more in control of the offer that they're able to provide their consumers. And that means having a system whereby, rather than just handing out an offer, they actually know who's coming to them so that they can tailor an offer and make sure it's the right offer for the right consumer. The needs of actually corporate travelers being very different to leisure travelers. And it may well be that the needs of Siemens, for example, are very different to the needs of, say, a bank in the in the City of London. So it's about making sure that you're actually able to have control in those offers and also the flexibility to offer what you want. It's also about cost. And this is a really important element. And this is the element that airlines perhaps don't necessarily talk about to the same degree. As far as many are concerned, the cost of indirect distribution through GDSs is far too high and that they are far too dependent on that. And there is a belief that they'll be able to reduce the cost significantly in an NDC environment. Now, we've only got a few minutes to discuss this, so I'd like to give you an indication of one or two of the things that are happening, and we'll show you how airline pricing is changing. The first thing, without going into all the details, is at the moment airline pricing in the old indirect environment, and indeed through direct sales as a result generally, is constrained by the 26 letters of the alphabet. In the new environment, there are no constraints. If you look at the EasyJet fare structure today, you'll see that there are lots of little steps in their economy pricing. And that's something that, for example, IAG have not been able to offer because of those constraints in the past. So one of the things that they're doing at the moment to encourage this new form of distribution, as they're unencumbered by any limits in that future environment, is having many, many more steps in pricing. But they're not necessarily making that offer available through all of their distribution channels. And they're preferring effectively the NDC channels and their own direct channels to deliver this. The Lufthansa group, on the other hand, are doing exactly the opposite, but very much with the same end result. They're actually withdrawing some of their lower fares in multiple European markets, both in economy and business class, from general sale through the GDSs, and only making them available either through a direct link with themselves, through their own website, or through one of the modern third-party aggregators that are coming into the environment. So that's already an important change. And the next changes I think you'll see, and this is going to take over 3 to 5 years, is that first of all, more and more airlines will build up the fare families we were talking about. So like with IAG, there's no reason why you shouldn't go on a long-haul flight only with a piece of hand luggage and make that selection. But you can equally trade up in price for different packages. But the real change that I think that we're all going to see is personalized offers. And I think that this is very relevant to the hotel industry. It's something that you already do to an extent. Like, for example, if I go and stay in Berlin with IHG, which I often do, I'm sometimes offered experiences, the opportunity to see historic Berlin and certain tours being included. I think what you'll see with airlines is that, again, let's take a corporate offer. It may well be that corporate A requires online internet access on a flight and that it doesn't require any hold luggage, but it requires perhaps also particular services like limousine and so on. And there's no reason why, using this new NDC technology, an offer can't be actually made to make the specific needs of that corporate a reality. Obviously, there's work that needs to be done behind the scenes to make it actually happen, but as a result, that corporate could have an offer, and another corporate can have a completely different offer. It may actually well be that they want to include, for example, a particular hotel chain in one booking, and there's no reason why that ultimately shouldn't be possible as well. And then I think for leisure travelers, what you're going to see are multiple elements. For example, I'll use the example of Berlin. My older son lives in Berlin. We travel there a lot. Well, if I've come in through this XML link and through an API, then basically British Airways is going to know, or Lufthansa, it could be either, that I regularly visit Berlin. So first of all, they'll know when to offer me perhaps a trip to Berlin, or they may think that I've got an interest in Cold War history, which I do, so why not offer me a trip to Moscow another weekend? And they'll notice what my travel habits are, and they'll be able to do two things. First of all, provide a tailored package effectively of airline benefits to me, which meet my needs. And they'll also be able to make a, ultimately, potentially, unique pricing offer based on what they think I'm willing to pay for a particular service. And then I will have a limited amount of time to decide whether or not I wish that offer. So those, I think, are some of the major developments you're going to see in airline pricing. It will take a little bit of time. Some airlines will take longer than others. And for some, it's a higher priority than others. And as I say, a lot of it is about being able to control the distribution paths. It's about having personalized offers for travelers rather than something more general that doesn't necessarily hit the traveler's spot. And the third element, which is hugely important, it's about cost and cost management and bringing that far more under control of the airlines. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any feedback, I don't think, from the conference hall, so I can't take any questions. I was given 10 minutes, so I've tried to be concise, but I hope this gives you some idea of what's happening in airline pricing. And if anybody is interested in more information or to discuss this any further, then I'd be delighted to be in touch and in contact and to provide you with any assistance. I wish you a fantastic conference in Madrid. I really wish I could be with you. Having said that, the weather's quite nice here in Johannesburg as well, and I wish you all a great day. Thank you very much.